There comes a moment in every person's life when everything feels heavy, confusing, or uncertain. A moment when you look around and wonder how you got here and how you will ever get somewhere better. Most people think transformation requires something massive, a miracle, a huge opportunity, a life-changing event handed to them by luck. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful than that. You are not waiting on a miracle. You are one decision away from a different life, not 10 decisions. Not a perfect plan, not approval from everyone around you, just one. One bold, committed, non-negotiable decision that says, from this day forward, I refuse to stay the same. Life doesn't change by chance. It changes by choice. The direction of your future is not controlled by your past mistakes, your current circumstances, or other people's opinions. It is controlled by the decisions you make when you're tired, when you're doubted, when you're scared. Every breakthrough in history began as a decision. Before the success, there was a choice. Before the transformation, there was a moment where someone drew a line and said, enough. And the same power lives inside you right now. The decision to start, the decision to quit what's destroying you, the decision to believe in yourself when no one else does, the decision to try again after failure. These are not small things. They are turning points. A single decision can redirect your habits, your relationships, your health, your finances, your mindset. And once direction changes, destiny follows. Think about it. The moment someone decides to take their health seriously, their schedule begins to shift. They wake up earlier. They move their body. They eat differently. That one decision creates new habits. Those habits create new energy. That energy creates confidence. And that confidence begins to affect every area of life, all because of one choice. The moment someone decides to stop tolerating disrespect, they set boundaries. The moment someone decides to pursue a dream, they start learning, practicing, building. Nothing externally magical happened. The magic was internal. It was the shift from maybe someday to starting today. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step. And that step begins with a decision that you mean with your whole heart. The reason most people stay stuck is not because they lack ability, that they delay the decision. They negotiate with their potential. They say, I'll start next week. I'll change when things calm down. I'll try when I feel more confident. But confidence doesn't come before the decision, it comes after it. Clarity doesn't show up before you move. It shows up because you moved. Waiting keeps you in the same place. Deciding moves you forward. And forward is where growth lies. You might think your situation is too complicated, too messy, too broken. But every powerful comeback story begins in a messy chapter. The difference is not circumstances, it's commitment. When you truly decide, you remove the option of going back. When you truly decide, excuses lose their power. When you truly decide, your focus sharpens. Suddenly you're not asking, can I? You're asking, how will I? That shift is everything. One decision has the power to silence years of self-doubt. One decision can end a cycle that has followed you for years. One decision can be the dividing line between the old you and the new you. It doesn't mean the road becomes easy. It means the road becomes purposeful, and there is strength in walking the hard road when you chose it. There is power in knowing that no matter how tough it gets, you made this choice for a reason. The world responds differently to someone who has decided. Opportunities appear differently. Energy feels different. You carry yourself differently. Because now you are no longer drifting. You are directing. You are no longer reacting. You are creating, and creation always begins with the decision. Right now, you may feel like your life is the result of everything that has happened to you, the failures, the disappointments, the missed chances. But what if this moment, this very breath, is the turning point? What if years from now, you look back and realize this was the day everything changed, not because your circumstances shifted overnight, but because you did. The power has always been within you, not in your resources, not in your connections, not in luck. In your choice, the decision to believe you deserve more, the decision to demand more from yourself, the decision to stop shrinking, stop settling, stop surviving, and start building. It doesn't require applause. It doesn't require permission. It requires courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. You will never feel completely ready. You will never have every guarantee. But you don't need certainty about the outcome. You only need certainty about your commitment. A different life is not years away. It is one bold decision away. And the moment you decide, truly decide, that you will grow, that you will persist, that you will rise, no matter what stands in your way, that is the moment your new life begins. Decide today and watch everything change. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we're waiting for the right moment. We convince ourselves that when the timing is perfect, when the fear disappears, when the money is saved, when the support is guaranteed, then we'll finally move. But the truth is, the perfect moment is a myth. It doesn't arrive with a signal. It doesn't knock on your door and announce that conditions are now ideal. In fact, if you look back at the most defining moments of your life, they probably didn't happen when everything felt aligned and comfortable. They happened in uncertainty. They happened when you were unsure. They happened when you had more questions than answers, and yet you survived them. You grew through them. The problem with waiting for perfect conditions is that perfection keeps moving. As soon as one excuse disappears, another one takes its place. If it's not the timing, it's the resources. If it's not the resources, it's confidence. If it's not confidence, it's fear of judgment. Waiting becomes a habit, and that habit slowly turns into a lifestyle of postponement. Meanwhile, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass quietly. Ideas lose energy. Motivation fades. The longer you wait, the heavier the first step feels. But here's what you need to understand. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Confidence doesn't show up before you begin. It builds because you begin. The perfect moment you're searching for is actually created the second you decide to move, despite the imperfections. Growth has never required perfect timing. IT requires courage. And courage is choosing to step forward while your hands are still shaking. It's choosing to apply even if you might get rejected. It's choosing to start the business before you feel fully qualified. It's choosing to change your life while parts of it still feel messy. If you wait for everything to feel safe and certain, you will be waiting forever. Success doesn't belong to those who wait for ideal conditions. It belongs to those who act in imperfect ones. It belongs to those who act in imperfect ones. The fear of starting before you feel ready is natural. Your mind is wired to protect you from risk, from embarrassment, from failure. It whispers, not yet. You need more preparation. You need more guarantees. But if you listen closely, that voice isn't protecting your dreams. It's protecting your comfort zone. And comfort zones are beautiful places to visit, but they are terrible places to build a future. Nothing extraordinary grows in a space where everything feels familiar and controlled. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, didn't start when they felt completely ready. They started when they felt called. They started when something inside them refused to stay still any longer. They didn't have full clarity. They had conviction. They didn't have certainty. They had belief. And belief is enough to take the first step. You don't need to see 10 years ahead. You just need to see the next move. Waiting for perfect timing is often just fear, dressed up as logic. It sounds responsible. It sounds practical. But deep down, you know when you're delaying because you're scared. And being scared doesn't mean stop. It means this matters. It means this matters. It means you're stepping into something bigger than your current identity. Think about how many opportunities are lost, not because people weren't capable, but because they hesitated, they waited too long, they overanalyzed, they let doubt grow roots, the window closed, and they were left wondering, what if? That question can echo for years. But when you choose to act, even imperfectly, even clumsily, you replace what if, what's next. Action creates momentum. Momentum builds belief. And belief reshapes identity. Every powerful transformation begins with someone saying, I may not feel ready, but I'm going anyway. You are allowed to start before you feel confident. You are allowed to try before you feel qualified. You are allowed to move while you are still learning. Progress is not reserved for the perfectly prepared. It rewards the consistently brave, perfectedly prepared. It rewards the consistently brave. Imagine who you could become if you stopped negotiating with your own potential. Imagine the strength you would discover if you stopped waiting for fear to disappear and instead walked forward with it. The perfect moment is not coming to rescue you, but this moment, this ordinary, imperfect, uncertain moment is more powerful than you realize, because this is where decisions are made. This is where courage is built. This is where identities shift. When you stop waiting, you reclaim time. When you stop waiting, you accelerate growth. When you stop waiting, you send a message to yourself that your dreams are urgent and your life is now. You don't need a flawless plan. You don't need universal approval. You don't need guaranteed outcomes. You need a willingness to begin. Starting messy is better than dreaming perfectly. Trying and failing is better than never knowing. Movement, even slow movement, is better than standing still. The road will teach you what preparation never could. The experience will shape you in ways that planning never will. And one day you will back and realize that the reason things started to shift wasn't because the conditions improved. It was because you did. You stopped waiting. You stopped postponing. You stepped forward when it would have been easier to stay still. And that step changed everything. The life you want is not waiting for perfect timing. It's waiting for your courage. Stop waiting and start now. Fear has a way of feeling like a stop sign. It shows up in your chest as tightness, in your thoughts as doubt, in your thoughts as doubt, in your body as hesitation. It whispers worst case scenarios. It magnifies risks. It makes the path ahead look steeper than it really is. And because it feels uncomfortable, most people interpret fear as a signal to retreat. They assume that if they feel afraid, it must mean they are not ready, not capable, not meant for that next level. But what if fear is not a warning to stop? What if it is a signal that you are standing at the edge of growth? Every time you are about to expand beyond your current identity, fear appears. When you consider speaking up after years of silence, fear shows up. When you think about starting something new, leaving something familiar, choosing something bigger, fear rises, not because you are incapable, but because you are stepping into the unknown. And the unknown is where transformation lives. The comfort zone will always feel safer because it is predictable. Even if it is painful, even if it is limiting, it is familiar. Fear is simply your mind trying to keep you within the boundaries it already understands. But those boundaries were created by your past, not your potential. If you let fear make your decisions, you will always live a life that fits inside yesterday's limits. The most powerful shift you can make is to stop asking, why am I scared? And start asking, what is this fear trying to grow in me? Because often the thing you fear most is directly connected to the person you are meant to become. Fear doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are on the edge of something meaningful. The people who build extraordinary lives are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear have the final say. They feel it, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in its presence. Fear is not your enemy. It is your invitation. Think about the moments in your life when you grew the most. Chances are they were uncomfortable. They stretched you. They forced you to confront parts of yourself you would rather avoid. Maybe it was the first time you tried and failed publicly. Maybe it was the moment you had to walk away from something you once thought you needed. Maybe it was the day you decided to believe in yourself without validation. Those moments were not easy. They were terrifying, but they shaped you. They strengthened you. They revealed resilience you didn't know you had. Fear often guards the door to your next level. It stands there like a test asking, how badly do you want this? If you turn around every time it appears, you never discover what's on the other side. But if you take one step forward, even with shaking hands, something powerful happens. You realize fear is loud, but not powerful. It shouts, but it cannot physically stop you. Only you can stop you. And once you move through it once, the next time becomes slightly easier. Not because fear disappears, but because your confidence grows. Each time you act despite fear, you build evidence. Evidence that you can survive discomfort. Evidence that you can handle rejection. Evidence that you can handle are stronger than the voice in your head that says you can't. And that evidence rewires your identity. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who avoids risk, you begin to see yourself as someone who faces it. That shift changes everything. Opportunities begin to look less intimidating and more exciting. Challenges begin to look less threatening and more developmental. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if this changes my life? Fear will always exaggerate the danger, but it will never show you the reward. It will highlight the embarrassment, but hide the breakthrough. It will focus on the fall, but ignore the flight. That is why you cannot let fear be your advisor. It has a limited perspective. It is designed for survival, not expansion. And you were not created just to survive. You were created to grow. Right now, there is probably something in your life that scares you. a decision you've been avoiding, a risk you've been postponing, a conversation you've been rehearsing but never having, that fear you feel around it is not random. It is connected to growth. On the other side of that fear is a stronger version of you, a more confident version, a more aligned version. But you cannot meet that version if you keep choosing comfort over courage. You don't have to eliminate fear to move forward. You just have to shrink its authority. Let it sit in the passenger seat, but don't give it the steering wheel. Feel the doubt, but take the step. Feel the uncertainty, but send the application. Feel the nervousness, but speak anyway. Every time you do, you send yourself a powerful message. My dreams are bigger than my fear. And over time, that message becomes your identity. Fear will visit you at every new level. It will show up when you aim higher, when you ove deeper, when you risk bigger. That doesn't mean you are going the wrong way. It means you are evolving. The absence of fear is not the goal. Mastery over it is. And mastery begins the moment you decide that discomfort is not a reason to stop, but a reason to grow. The life you want is not on the other side of comfort. It is on the other side of courage. Walk through the fear and claim it. The moment you make a real decision, something subtle but powerful begins to shift inside you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. The world around you may look exactly the same, but internally, a line has been drawn. And once that line is drawn, your habits begin to follow, because habits are not random behaviors. They are physical expressions of your decisions. Every routine you keep, every pattern you repeat, every daily action you take is a reflection of something you have chosen consciously or unconsciously. If you decide that your health matters, you begin to move differently. If you decide your time is valuable, you begin to guard it differently. If you decide your dream is non-negotiable, you begin to structure your days around it. The reason many people struggle to change their habits is because they never made a firm decision. They made a wish, they made a hope, they made a temporary emotional promise, but they never decided at an identity level. And without that internal shift, habits always fall back to what feels familiar. When you truly decide, you stop debating with yourself every morning. You stop negotiating every time it feels inconvenient. Decision removes drama. It removes the daily question of should I, and replaces it with of course I will. That is where power lives. Your life today is the result of the habits you practiced yesterday. And your tomorrow is quietly being built by what you repeatedly do right now. Big success is never built on one giant action. It is built on small actions repeated, consistency. And consistency is born from decision. When you decide that something matters deeply enough, your behavior begins to align. You wake up earlier, not because you feel like it, but because you decided growth matters more than comfort. You practice longer, not because it's easy, but because you decided excellence is the standard. You say no to distractions, not because they aren't tempting, but because you decided your future is worth protecting. The decision comes first. The discipline follows. And eventually, the results speak. Look at anyone who has transformed their life in a powerful way. At some point, they changed their standards. And standards are simply decisions repeated daily. The person who commits to reading every day didn't wake up one morning magically disciplined. They decided learning was part of who they are. The person who built strength in the gym didn't always feel motivated. They decided showing up was no longer optional. The entrepreneur who built something meaningful didn't always feel inspired. They decided consistency was more important than mood. When you make a decision that is strong enough, your habits reorganize around it. It may not happen perfectly at first. You might stumble. You might miss a day. But because the decision is solid, you return, you adjust, you continue. That's the difference between interest and commitment. Interest says, I'll do it when it's convenient. Commitment says, I'll do it when it's convenient. Commitment says, I'll do it even when it's hard. Your habits don't respond to interest, they respond to. And commitment is rooted in a clear decision about who you are becoming. If you keep saying you want change, but your daily actions remain the same, it's not a discipline problem, it's a decision problem. Somewhere deep inside, the choice hasn't been fully made. Because once it is, your environment starts to shift. You remove distractions, you change your circle, you organize your time, you design your days intentionally. You stop leaving your future to chance. You begin to act like the person you want to become before the results appear. And that is where transformation accelerates. Identity drives behavior. If you see yourself as someone who quits, your habits will reflect that. If you see yourself as someone who finishes, your habits will align with that. The most powerful habit you can build is keeping the promises you make to yourself. Every time you follow through, even in small ways, you strengthen your self-trust. And self-trust builds confidence that no external validation can replace. Over time, those small, kept promises compound. They build skill, they build resilience, they build credibility with yourself. And suddenly, the life that once felt far away starts becoming real, not because of luck, but because of lined, repeated action. This is why one decision truly can change everything, not because it creates instant results, but because it sets a new pattern in motion. A new pattern practiced daily becomes a new lifestyle. A new lifestyle sustained over time becomes a new destiny. You don't wake up one day successful. You wake up one day realizing that the small disciplines you practice consistently have transformed you. The person who once hesitated now moves with clarity. The person who once doubted now acts with belief. And it all traces back to a moment where you said, this is who I am now. If you want different results, don't focus only on the O. If you want different results, don't focus only. You calm. Focus on the daily behaviors that lead there. And if those behaviors feel hard to maintain, return to the decision, strengthen it, clarify it, remind yourself why you chose this path. Motivation will fluctuate. Energy will rise and fall. But a clear decision acts like an anchor. It keeps you steady when emotions shift. Your habits are votes for the person you are becoming. Every workout is a vote for strength. Every focused hour is a vote for mastery. Every disciplined choice is a vote for your future self. You may not see dramatic change overnight, but change is happening beneath the surface. Just as water shapes stone through repetition, your small daily actions are shaping your character. And character ultimately shapes destiny. So if you want a different life, decide first. Decide deeply. Decide completely. Decide completely. Then let your habits follow that decision every single day. Change your decision and you change your habits. Change your habits and you change your life. There is something dangerously attractive about comfort. It feels safe. It feels predictable. It feels controlled. You know what to expect. You know how to respond, and you know how to survive within it. But what most people don't realize is that comfort, while peaceful on the surface, can quietly become a cage. It doesn't trap you with force. It traps you with the force. It traps you with familiarity. You stay in the same routine, the same environment, the same mindset. Not because it fulfills you, but because it doesn't challenge you. And over time, that lack of challenge slowly erodes your potential. Dreams don't die in chaos. They die in comfort. They fade when you convince yourself that this is good enough, even when you know deep down you were made for more. The comfort zone is not always a bad place. It gives you rest. It gives you stability. But it was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to be a place you visit, not a place you live, because nothing grows in a space where everything feels easy. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Character doesn't grow without adversity. Confidence doesn't grow without risk. If your life feels too predictable, too routine, too safe, there's a chance you've been prioritizing comfort over growth. And the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to leave. The comfort zone shrinks your world without you noticing. It lowers your expectations slowly. It makes average feel acceptable. It makes potential feel optional. And one day you wake up wondering where the fire went, where the ambition went, where that bold version of you disappeared to. It didn't disappear. It just got buried under layers of convenience. Every time you avoided a hard conversation because it felt uncomfortable, you fed the comfort zone. Every time you stayed silent when you should have spoken, you fed it. Every time you delayed your goals because starting felt risky, you fed it. And comfort, when constantly fed, becomes powerful. It convinces you that staying the same is smarter than stretching. But deep down, you know the truth. You know that the life you want requires stepping beyond what feels easy. The problem with staying comfortable too long is not that it hurts immediately, it's that it slowly limits what you believe is possible. When you stop challenging yourself, your standards quietly drop. You begin to adjust your dreams to match your current effort instead of adjusting your effort to match your dreams. You start saying things like, maybe this is enough, not because you truly believe it, but because striving feels exhausting. And while rest is necessary, surrender, bring your ambition is not. The people who build extraordinary lives are not addicted to comfort. They are committed to growth. They understand that discomfort is not a threat. It is evidence of expansion. When you feel stretched, when you feel uncertain, when you feel slightly overwhelmed, it usually means you are stepping into a larger version of yourself. And that feeling is not something to run from. It's something to lean into. Think about every breakthrough you've ever had. It likely came after a period of discomfort, after trying again, after risking embarrassment, after choosing the harder path. Growth demands that you outgrow old habits, old identities, and sometimes even old environments. And that process will never feel completely comfortable, but discomfort is temporary. Regret can last a lifetime. Imagine looking back years from now, knowing you had more inside you, but chose safety instead. Knowing you had ideas you never acted on, talents you never developed, risks you never developed, risks you never took. That quiet disappointment is far heavier than temporary discomfort. The comfort zone will always promise peace, but it rarely delivers fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from progress, from knowing you are stretching your limits, from facing challenges and discovering strength you didn't know you had. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you expand your capacity. You prove to yourself that you are adaptable, resilient, capable. And with each expansion, your world gets bigger. Your confidence deepens. Your belief strengthens. The comfort zone shrinks your life. Courage enlarges it. Right now, there is likely an area in your life where you know you've been playing small. Maybe it's in your career, settling for less than you're capable of. Maybe it's in your relationships, tolerity, NG. What doesn't align with your worth? Maybe it's in your goals, dreaming quietly, but acting cautiously. That awareness you feel, that subtle restlessness, is not dissatisfaction. It's growth calling you forward. It's the next level of your life asking for bravery. And bravery does not mean recklessness. It means choosing progress over predictability. It means being willing to feel uncomfortable today so you can feel proud tomorrow. The life you want is not hidden behind talent or luck. It is hidden behind the willingness to step beyond what feels safe. When you leave your comfort zone, you don't lose security, you build strength, you develop skills, you build resilience, you learn adaptability, and those qualities create a deeper, more lasting confidence than comfort ever could. The first step outside will feel unfamiliar. The second will feel slightly easier. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes normal. And suddenly, your old comfort zone feels too small for who you become. That is how growth works. It stretches you, then strengthens you. It challenges you, then changes you. But it begins with a choice, a decision to stop letting comfort dictate your future, a decision to trade temporary ease for long-term fulfillment. You were not designed to live a life that barely challenges you. You were designed to expand, to evolve, to rise, and everything you want is waiting just outside the boundaries you've been afraid to cross. Step out of comfort and step into who you're meant to become. It's easy to look at your life and say, I'm stuck in a job that drains you, stuck in habits that frustrate you, stuck in patterns you promised you would break, stuck in a version of yourself that feels smaller than your potential. And when you say you're stuck, it almost fey. Else is essentially else relieving, because it suggests something outside of you is holding you in place. It suggests the economy, your past, your circumstances, other people, bad luck, something external is responsible. But here is the uncomfortable truth that changes everything. You are not stuck. You are choosing, not always consciously, not always intentionally, but every day you are choosing what to tolerate, what to pursue, what to avoid, what to pursue, what to avoid, what to prioritize. And those daily choices are shaping your reality. The moment you understand that, your power returns. Because if you are choosing it, you can choose differently. Stuck implies helplessness. Choosing it implies control. And control is where transformation begins. It doesn't mean your circumstances are easy. It doesn't mean you haven't faced unfair situations or painful setbacks. It means that within whatever situation you are in, there is still a choice available to you. You can choose your response. You can choose your standards. You can choose your next step. Many people wait for a rescue, someone to notice their talent, an opportunity to appear, motivation to strike like lightning. But while they wait, they are still choosing to delay, choosing to remain comfortable, choosing to avoid the risk of change. And over time, that pattern becomes their identity. They begin to believe the story that life just happens to them. But the truth is, life responds to the decisions you make repeatedly. If nothing changes, it is because a new decision hasn't been made yet. That realization may sting, but it also sets you free. Because the same power that kept you where you are is the power that can move you forward. When you say you're stuck, what you often mean is that change feels uncomfortable. It means leaving what's familiar. It means risking failure. It means stepping into uncertainty. And so you stay not because you can't leave, but because staying feels safer. You stay in the routine because at least you know it. You stay in the environment because at least it's predictable. You stay in the mindset because at least it doesn't demand more from you. But safety and growth rarely exist in the same space. Growth asks more of you. It asks for discipline when you don't feel motivated. It asks for courage when you feel afraid. It asks for responsibility when it would be easier to blame. And responsibility is the turning point. The moment you stop blaming circumstances and start asking, what can I do differently? Everything shifts. That question activates your agency. It puts you back in the driver's seat. Even if the road is difficult, you are no longer a passenger. You are steering. And steering requires ownership. It requires admitting that some of your current results are the product of past decisions. Not to shame yourself, but to empower yourself. Because if past choices created this reality, new choices can create a different one. You may not control every outcome, but you control your effort. You control your preparation. You control your preparation. You control your persistence. You control whether you try again or give up. You control whether you invest in learning or stay stagnant. You control whether you speak up or remain silent. These may seem like small choices, but compounded over time, they build a completely different life. The person who wakes up 1 hour earlier every day is choosing growth. The person who applies again after rejection is choosing resilience. The person who sets boundaries is choosing self-respect. These are not dramatic overnight transformations. They are daily decisions that gradually rewrite a story. And the most powerful part is this: you can start making them at any moment right now. Even as you listen, you are choosing something. You are choosing whether to see yourself as limited or capable, whether to see your past as a prison or a lesson, whether to view your current situation as permanent or temporary. That choice alone shifts your mindset, and mindset shapes behavior, and behavior shapes results. You are not waiting for change. Change is waiting for your decision. The moment you fully accept that your life reflects your choices, you reclaim your authority. No more waiting, no more blaming, no more telling yourself you're stuck. You may be challenged. You may be stretched. You may be uncomfortable, but you are not trapped. There is always a move available, even if it's small. And small moves build momentum. Momentum builds belief. Belief builds courage. And courage builds a new reality. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one day. You just need to choose differently today than you did yesterday. Choose discipline over delay. Choose courage over comfort. Choose responsibility over excuses. Choose growth over stagnation. Those choices may feel subtle in the moment, but over weeks and months, they compound into transformation. One day you will look back and realize that the moment everything shifted was the moment you stopped saying, I'm stuck, and started saying, I'm stuck, and started saying, I choose. You are not. Decision away from moving. Choose differently and move. When people think about changing their lives, they often imagine something dramatic, a huge breakthrough, a massive opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime moment that flips everything overnight. But real transformation rarely looks like that. More often, it begins quietly. It begins with a small decision that seems almost insignificant at the time, the decision to wake up 30 minutes earlier, the decision to read instead of scroll, the decision to save a little instead of spend, the decision to practice one more time when you're tired. These choices don't look powerful in isolation. They don't feel life-changing in the moment. But over time, they create a ripple effect that reshapes everything. Small decisions are powerful because they are repeatable. Anyone can make a huge effort once. Anyone can feel motivated for a day. But the person who wins is the one who commits to small, consistent improvements. 1% better each day may sound minor, but compounded over a year, it becomes extraordinary. The gap between average and exceptional is rarely talent. It is consistency in small disciplines. Think about it. A single workout will not transform your body. A single focused study session will not make you an expert. A single act of courage will not eliminate all fear. But repeated daily, these small actions create momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence fuels greater action. And before you realize it, you are living at a level that once felt unreachable. Massive transformation is not the result of one giant leap. It is the result of many small steps taken in the same direction. The problem is small steps don't feel impressive. They don't get applause. They don't always give immediate results. And because of that, many people abandon them too quickly. They underestimate the power of tiny shifts. They look for shortcuts instead of systems. But the truth is, your life is shaped far more by what you do daily than by what you do occasionally. And daily behavior is built on small decisions made over and over again. Every big achievement you admire was built on habits that once seemed minor. The author who published a book started by writing a single page a day. The athlete who reached elite performance began with basic drills repeated endlessly. The entrepreneur who built something impactful began with small, uncertain steps, sending emails, learning skills, refining ideas. None of those actions looked glamorous at the beginning, but they were consistent. And consistency turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Small decisions are powerful because they lower resistance. It's easier to commit to 10 minutes of practice than to promise perfection. It's easier to focus on one healthy meal than to overhaul your entire diet overnight. It's easier to read 5 pages than to promise 100. And once you start small, you build evidence that you can follow through, evidence that you are disciplined, evidence that you are capable of growth. That evidence that you are capable of growth, that evidence changes your identity. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who struggles with consistency, you begin to see yourself as someone who keeps promises. And identity is everything. When your identity shifts, your behavior naturally aligns. The small decision to show up today makes it easier to show up today, makes it easier to show up tomorrow. The small decision to say no to distraction strengthens your focus the next time. The small decision to speak up builds courage for bigger conversations. These micro choices compound quietly. They stack on top of each other like bricks. One brick alone doesn't look like much, but stacked consistently, they build something solid, something lasting, something strong. Many people quit because they expect immediate results from small efforts. But small decisions are seeds, and seeds take time to grow. You don't dig up a CD every day to check its progress. You water it, you trust it, you protect it, and eventually growth becomes visible. The same is true for your habits. Protect your small decisions. Guard them. Repeat them. Even when progress feels slow, especially when progress feels slow. Right now, you may feel like your goals are too far away, too big, too overwhelming, and that feeling can paralyze you before you even begin. But what if you stopped focusing on the entire mountain and focused instead on the next step? What if you asked yourself, what small decision can I make today that moves me forward? Not next year, not next month, today. Because today is manageable. Today is within reach. And when you string enough today decisions together, they build a future that once felt impossible. You don't need to change everything at once. You need to change everything at once. You need to change something consistently. The decision to wake up with intention, the decision to invest in your growth, the decision to practice discipline in small moments. These may not look dramatic to the outside world, but they are revolutionary within. Over time, they create separation between you and the version of you that once doubted. They create distance between where you started and where you are going. And one day, you will look back and realize that your transformation didn't happen because of one massive event. It happened because you chose small, intentional actions repeatedly. You chose growth when it was easier to stay the same. You chose effort when it was easier to delay. You chose discipline when it was easier to drift. And those small choices built a new standard, a new mindset, a new life. Never underestimate the power of a small decision made consistently. Small steps taken daily lead to massive transformation. There is a moment in every transformation where the excuses run out. A moment where blaming circumstances, other people, timing, or bad luck no longer feels satisfying. And in that moment, you are faced with a powerful choice. Continue giving your power away or take full responsibility for your life. Responsibility can feel heavy at first. It feels easier to point outward, to explain why things haven't worked, to justify why you're still where you are. Blame is comfortable because it protects your ego. If it's someone else's fault, you don't have to change. If the system is the problem, you don't have to grow. If your past defines you, you don't have to challenge it. But the problem with blame is that it leaves you powerless. When control lies outside of you, so does your future. Responsibility, on the other hand, is empowering. It says, no matter what happened, I choose my next move. It doesn't deny that life can be unfair. It doesn't ignore real obstacles. It simply refuses to let those obstacles dictate your destiny. The moment you accept responsibility, you reclaim control. You stop waiting to be rescued. You stop expecting someone else to fix what only you can fix. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do about it, that shift is everything. It transforms you from a victim of circumstance into the architect of your life. Responsibility is not about self-blame. It's about self-leadership. It's about recognizing that while you cannot control every event, you always control your response. And your response determines your direction. When you take ownership, you gain clarity. You see where your habits need to change. You see where your habits need to grow. You see where your effort needs to increase. And instead of feeling overwhelmed, you feel focused because now you know where to act. Blame scatters your energy. Responsibility concentrates it. When you fully own your life, your standards rise. You stop tolerating behaviors in yourself that keep you small. You stop excusing procrastination. You stop justifying inconsistency. You stop pretending you don't know what needs to change. Responsibility sharpens your awareness. It forces you to look in the mirror and say, if I want different results, I must become different. That realization is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to empower you. Because if your current results are connected to your current actions, then changing your actions changes your future. This is where real power lives. Think about it. Every successful person you admire reached a point where they stopped blaming and started building. They stopped complaining about what they lacked and started maximizing what they had. They stopped focusing on what was unfair and started focusing on what was possible. Responsibility gives you that same advantage. It teaches you to ask better questions. Instead of, why don't I have support? You ask better questions. Instead of, how can I build skills that make support unnecessary? Instead of, why is this so hard? You ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, why did this happen to me? You ask, how can I grow from this? Those questions shift your energy from frustration to action. And action changes outcomes. Responsibility also builds resilience. When you own your journey, setbacks don't break you. They instruct you. Failures don't define you. They refine you. You no longer collapse under pressure because you understand that progress requires adjustment. You don't waste time arguing with reality. You adapt to it. You learn. You pivot. You continue. That mindset makes you unstoppable. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become stronger. The world respects people who take responsibility. Opportunities gravitate toward those who lead themselves. Confidence grows in those who trust themselves to respond with maturity and effort. And the more you practice ownership, the more capable you feel. Over time, you begin to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to demonstrate your strength. Right now, you have a choice. You can continue telling yourself stories about why things are the way they are, or you can decide that from this moment forward, you own it all. You own your growth. You own your discipline. You own your mindset. You own your brave future. That decision may feel intense, but it is freeing because when you own it, you control it. You no longer wait for perfect conditions. You create progress in imperfect ones. You no longer depend on motivation. You depend on commitment. You no longer shrink when things get hard. You rise because you understand that responsibility is strength. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. And that is not a sad reality. It's an empowering one. Because it means you don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need ideal circumstances. You need ownership. When you take full responsibility, you stow. P, being reactive, and start being intentional. You design your habits. You guard your time. You elevate your standards. And as your standards rise, so do your results. Responsibility creates power because it places the steering wheel back in your hands. You may not control the weather, but you control how you navigate it. You may not control every obstacle, but you control your persistence. And persistence, guided by ownership, builds extraordinary lives. The moment you stop blaming and start owning is the moment your power returns. Take responsibility and take control. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the person you could become 1 year from now if you truly committed to growth. Not a fantasy version of you, not a perfect version, but a stronger, sharper, more disciplined version. Imagine the confidence in your posture, the clarity in your decisions, the calm in your mind, because you kept promises to yourself. That future version of you is not a dream. It is a possibility waiting on your present choices. Every day, you are either moving closer to that person or further away from them. The future is not something that just arrives. It is something you build. And the most powerful motivation you can carry is not proving others wrong or chasing applause. It is becoming someone your future self will thank. Think about how often you sacrifice long-term growth for short-term comfort. You skip the workout, delay the project, avoid the difficult conversation, and tell yourself it won't matter, but it always matters. Because your future self inherits your current decisions. They either benefit from your discipline or suffer from your delay. They either stand on the foundation you built or struggle with the consequences you ignored. And one day that future self becomes your present reality. The question is simple when that day comes. Will you feel gratitude or regret? Regret doesn't usually scream, it whispers. It shows up in quiet moments when you realize you had more potential than you used. It lingers when you see others living the life you once talked about building. But gratitude feels different. Gratitude feels like pride. It feels like strength. It feels like looking back and knowing that even when it was hard, even when no one was watching, you kept going. You don't need to know every detail of your future. You just need a vision strong enough to guide your next step. Your future self is not asking you to be perfect. They are asking you to be competent. They are asking you to be consistent. They are asking you to try. They are asking you to believe that who you are becoming matters more than how you feel in the moment. It's powerful to realize that the person you admire in your imagination is built through ordinary days, handled with extraordinary intention. That future version of you wakes up early not because it's easy, but because it's easy, but because it aligns with their goals. They manage their time wisely because they understand its value. They protect their energy because they know distractions steal destiny. And every one of those traits is being shaped right now in this present moment. You don't wake up one morning transformed. You wake up transformed after months of small, intentional actions repeated quietly. When you choose discipline today, you're sending a gift forward. When you choose courage today, you're building strength ahead. When you choose growth over comfort, you're expanding your capacity for tomorrow. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is filled with daily decisions. That gap is not closed by wishing, but by working. And the beauty of it is you don't have to become that future version overnight. You only need to act in alignment with them today. Ask yourself in difficult moments, what would the strongest version of me do right now? That question alone can redirect your behavior. When you feel like quitting, that future self whispers, keep going. When you feel like settling, they remind you, aim higher. When you feel like doubting yourself, they say, trust the process. They are not a separate person. They are you evolved through effort. Every time you choose growth, you strengthen the connection between who you are and who you are becoming. Every time you fall short but get back up, you close the distance. The future is shaped in private moments when you choose effort over excuses, learning over laziness, belief over fear. Those moments may feel small, but they compound. And compounded effort creates visible transformation. The future you is not built in grand public displays. It is built in quiet, consistent commitment. Imagine standing 1 year from now, looking back at today as the turning point. Imagine saying that was the day I stopped underestimating myself. That was the day I stopped waiting. That was the day I started building. That was the day I started building. You have that power right now. The decisions you make today will echo into your future. They will either create strength or stagnation. They will either open doors or close them. And while time will pass no matter what, growth is optional. Your future self is waiting, not passively, but expectantly, waiting for you to take the first step, waiting for you to commit, waiting for you to rise to the standard you know you are capable of reaching. You owe it to that version of you to try, to push, to show up even when it's inconvenient, because the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pride of becoming who you're meant to be lasts a lifetime. 1 year from now, you will either wish you had started today or be grateful that you did. The choice is yours and the clock is already ticking. Become the person your future self will be proud of. Procrastination has a way of disguising itself as strategy. We tell ourselves we'll start tomorrow. We tell ourselves we need to plan better, feel ready, or wait for the right time. But tomorrow is a mirage, always receding just as you approach. The truth is, change doesn't come when life feels convenient or comfortable. It comes the moment you decide it must. Every great transformation, every story of success, every life that shifts dramatically begins with a single, decisive choice made in imperfect conditions. Waiting for perfect conditions is the fastest route to stagnation, because perfection rarely exists outside of imagination. Because perfection rarely exists outside of imagination. Life will never be completely aligned with your comfort, your confidence, or your Clara, B-I happened yet. The past is essentially, can be, opportunities don't come with guarantees and inspiration doesn't arrive on a schedule. But action doesn't require certainty. It only requires decision. The moment you choose to move, you break the cycle of hesitation. You stop waiting for external validation and start generating internal momentum. One decision, fully owned, has the power to override a lifetime of excuses, doubts, and fear. It doesn't matter how small or modest the first step seems. What matters is that it exists, that you commit to it, that you refuse to retreat. That single decision can start a chain reaction that completely reshapes your habits, your mindset, and ultimately your destiny. Think about it. The most successful people in the world didn't wait until they felt perfect, ready, or safe. They acted. They started. They stumbled. They learned. They corrected. And they continued. That is the power of deciding today. Waiting, on the other hand, prolongs dissatisfaction. It delays growth. It allows fear to grow unchecked. and it whispers lies about limitations you have already outgrown. The moment to act is now when you decide today instead of tomorrow. You reclaim time that would otherwise be lost. Time is the most unforgiving yet valuable resource you have, and every day spent waiting is a day surrendered. It's not just about productivity, it's about momentum. Momentum is what separates people who talk about their goals from people who achieve them. You don't need perfect clarity or complete confidence to create momentum. You need commitment, and commitment begins with a decision. That decision creates energy, it creates focus, it creates alignment between intention and action. When you choose today, you send a signal to your mind, your body, and your environment that you are serious. You are ready to be accountable. You are ready to face challenges and overcome resistance. Waiting, by contrast, signals hesitation, fear, and a lack of ownership. It reinforces comfort and discourages courage. Every delay strengthens the pattern of postponement, and the longer you wait, the heavier the first step becomes. But deciding today is liberating. It puts the steering wheel back in your hands. It turns uncertainty into possibility. It transforms fear into fuel. One decision ignites action, and action begets more action. Suddenly, what felt impossible starts feeling inevitable. The first move is always the hardest, but it is also the most transformative. Once that first step is taken, momentum compounds. Your mind becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Your confidence begins to build. Your vision becomes clearer. You discover resources, connections, and strength you didn't know you had. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, your life begins to change. Today is the moment where waiting ends and creating begins. It is the hinge on which your future swings. Nothing shifts until the decision is made. Nothing accelerates until the commitment is given. And that is why waiting for tomorrow is a trap you cannot afford. Right now, the life you want is within reach, not in some distant future, not in some perfect alignment of conditions, but right here, right now. You may not feel fully ready. You may be unsure. You may doubt yourself. That is normal. That is human. Courage is not the absence of doubt. It is acting in spite of it. Action is not reserved for the confident. It is what builds confidence. Today is the day to declare war on hesitation. Today is the day to stop negotiating with your potential. Today is the day to choose growth over comfort, action over stagnation, courage over fear. Your future self is already waiting for you to take this step. Every hour, every choice, every moment you delay is an hour surrendered, a choice missed, a moment lost. The decision to start now, to commit now, to act now is the most powerful weapon you have. It doesn't need a perfect plan, a clear path, or a guarantee of success. It only needs your resolve. Because once you decide today, the chain reaction begins. Momentum builds. Confidence strengthens. Habits align. Opportunities multiply. And before you know it, the life you've been dreaming of is no longer a distant hope. It is your reality. The moment you choose today, not tomorrow, everything changes. Decide today and watch your life transform.